The moment she realized her feelings for him, everything changed. She never expected to feel this way. The pounding in her chest, the heat rising to her cheeks, the confusion flooding her mind. But how could she not? He was kind, effortlessly charming, and he saw her in ways no one else ever had. Yet, deep down, she knew this was all too sudden, too overwhelming. Why did her heart choose him? And what would happen if he knew? It wasn't always like this. She used to keep to herself, blending into the background, content with her books and fantasies. The idea of standing in the spotlight, let alone drawing the attention of so many, felt like a distant dream. But then, something shifted, a moment of self-reflection, an unexpected transformation. Suddenly, the world saw her differently, and with that new gaze came their affection, their rivalry, and their endless attempts to win her over. Every morning became an adventure. Whether it was the confident one who always seemed to know what to say, the quiet one whose eyes held secrets, or the mischievous one who lived to tease, they each brought something new into her life. She couldn't help but wonder what they truly saw in her. Was it just her appearance? Or did they see beyond that, to the person she really was? One day, as she walked to school, a chance encounter left her flustered. He was waiting there, leaning casually against the gate, his usual smirk replaced by something softer, more sincere. "You look different today," he said, his voice low enough to send a shiver down her spine. She laughed it off, but the way he looked at her lingered in her mind. Was it just her imagination, or did his words mean more than they seemed? As the days passed, the dynamic between them all grew more intense. Every shared glance, every accidental touch, every whispered conversation seemed to carry a weight she couldn't quite understand. And yet, amidst it all, her feelings for him only grew stronger. But how could she choose? Every decision felt like it would unravel the fragile balance they had built. Did she even want to choose? One afternoon, while helping clean the classroom, the two of them found themselves alone. The air between them was thick with unspoken words. Finally, he broke the silence. "You know," he began, his voice hesitant in a way she'd never heard before, "I've been wanting to tell you something." Her heart raced as he stepped closer, his usual confidence replaced by a vulnerability that took her breath away. But before he could continue, the door slid open and they were no longer alone. The moment shattered, leaving her with more questions than answers. What had he wanted to say? And why did she feel both relieved and disappointed that he hadn't finished? As the school festival approached, the tension among them all reached its peak. The days were filled with preparations, laughter, and fleeting moments that left her heart aching. But there was one moment that stood out above all the rest. Underneath the glow of the festival lights, he found her, pulling her away from the crowd. His eyes held hers, and for the first time she saw a vulnerability there she hadn't noticed before. "Why do you always hold back?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The question caught her off guard. She had no answer, only the overwhelming feeling of being completely seen. Did he know how torn she was? How afraid she was of losing the delicate connections she had built with them all? Before she could respond, he stepped closer, his hand brushing against hers. The world around them seemed to fade away, but just as quickly as the moment came, it was interrupted. Someone called out her name, and the spell was broken. She turned to find the others approaching, their playful banter breaking the tension. She forced a smile, but her mind was elsewhere, replaying his words over and over again. What did he mean? And why did it feel like her heart was pulling her in two different directions? That night, as she lay awake in her room, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. The connections she had built, the moments they had shared, the emotions she could no longer ignore, it all felt like it was leading to something she couldn't quite see. And as much as she tried to push it aside, her thoughts kept returning to him. What was it about him that made her feel this way? And was she ready to face the truth of her feelings? The next day, as she walked into the classroom, she found herself surrounded by the familiar chaos of her daily life. They were all there, each one vying for her attention in their own way. But amidst the noise and laughter, her eyes found his. He was watching her, his expression unreadable. And in that moment, she realized something. No matter how confusing her feelings were, she couldn't ignore them any longer. What would she do? Could she take the risk of following her heart, knowing it might change everything? Or would she continue to hold back, afraid of what the future might hold? The choice was hers to make. But one thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same.